Art must be beautiful. Artist must be beautiful. Art must be beautiful. You know, I was really kind of wunderkind. My first exhibition was already with age 14. I was painting my dreams. It was very simple. You know, I wake up, I have the great dreams, and I paint them. Then later on, I turn into different subjects. And then at one point, when I really find that I actually can use my own body as a subject and object of my work, everything changed. Actually, as a young, I was incredibly timid, extremely timid, and I was always in my studio. I was always surrounded by poetry and the books and music. But the moment when I really decided to be in the front of the public, this was the moment when I understood the energy of the public and understood that actually there is a transmission in this energy dialogue. It was mesmerized me. I felt electricity through entire my body. I felt I could never go back to seclusion of the studio. You know, I was living in the time when I was born in Tito, communist Yugoslavia. And performance was something that nobody even heard about. And when I introduced performance to ex-Yugoslavia, public in that time, it was like a first woman walking on the moon or something. I was black sheep immediately. My parents was absolutely criticized on the party meetings, what kind of education, what I'm doing, cutting communist star on my stomach, or burning the communist star on the square. It was not exactly something that I should do. But I really had a very clear purpose that I wanted to use body as my media, that actually body is the canvas, that the paint is the blood and razor was a tool. So starting performance in that kind of environment, with that kind of pressure, political government and also my own parents, it was really something that for me, literally heroic act. It was difficult, but this is what makes me strong and rewarding to continue this kind of work for the future. In the beginning of my performance is all called rhythm. Rhythm, the rhythm 10, rhythm 5, rhythm 4, rhythm 2, rhythm 0 finally. And why it's called rhythm? Because my beginning of my early performances were completely based on sound. Sound brought me to performance. And I remember one of the few works with sound was really like the idea to put the speakers on the bridge and with the sound of bridge collapsing. So the really rhythms was really kind of beginning. Also, my first installation that actually very few people know in museum in Zagreb, they give me 5 rooms, and I had the completely 5 empty rooms, and in each room I put the metronome, and this metronome was with a different sound, adagio, allegro, vivace, whatever, and the last room just with no sound, just still. And this was really, all what you come to empty space, you hear the time in different kind of rhythms. It was pretty important. And then in rhythm, then I applied this with the 10 knives, rhythm 10. Rhythm 5 was actually flames of the burning hair that I saw in the car, in the fire. And the rhythm 0 was something that I understood that the public can kill you. I think there was no any rhythm from my side. I was still, but I had so many 72 instruments that people can use, which create certain sound, and also sound of the breathing, sound of the voices. There was a man who never touched me, but he was always around me, and he was smaller, and I always focused in one point. All what I hear was his breathing. I would never forget that. It was kind of rhythmical and then arrhythmical and then fast and slow. That breathing was create incredible cloud of fear in me, which I didn't know what was next going to happen. So the sound is very, very strong, you know, wood sound that you can hear. You have all images right away, what can happen. You know, performance art is one of the most difficult and most demanding form of art. And why? Because it's immaterial, because it's time-based. You have to be there in the place what happened, otherwise you miss it. It's not like you go to exhibition and see the paintings on the wall and you see them once, or sculptures, and then you maybe come second time and maybe you don't. But at the same time, they're always there. But performance is that kind of, you know, the immaterial form of art. And also, it's, when you see it the first time, it's also about emotional impact, and everything stays in the memory. So how to preserve the performance, how the performance can live for so long period of time. You know, I'm always comparing with the Aboriginal ceremonies. There never been written one word, but the knowledge was transmitted for 30,000 years. So the memory can stay a long time of any of the witnesses who see the performance. But also, if performance is good, it's absolutely transformative. It's transformative for the person doing it, but also for the public watching. One of the most important things that I invented in my life for the performance is long duration. I didn't invent this because, you know, if you think about the different people like Wagner, who, you know, Nibelung is 15 hours, but I would say that for me, myself, personally, everything is long duration. It's incredible. In long duration, you can't pretend. You can't be somebody else. You have to show vulnerability to the public, and that vulnerability connect you with their own vulnerability. And this is incredible bond. And then performance, when you see, for, you know, 8 hours, 2 months, 1 month, 20 hours, whatever, public see, they can't believe. They bring their friends, they bring more friends. And we create something which we call the public community. So this become life, because the people want to have experience, and they always have something different, and they support you with their own energy. And this is why it's such a magnificent form of art. You know, I never try my performance in the studio or anywhere. I only have concept, and I do it for the first time in the front of the audience. This is extremely important. If I would try anything before, I will never do it. First of all, it's too difficult. Second, it's too painful. I don't like any of this in real life. But then I put all this in the front of the audience in the fixed space, fixed time. And then everything that happened in this period actually is a part of the work. If earthquake came, if electricity stopped, somebody vomit, whatever, you know, that's the part that I can't control. I only can control space-time decision, and let's say, you know, 715 hours sitting where artist is present. I only will stop if I faint, which is physical problem, but not otherwise, no matter what. And that's so important. And then to give the freedom for spontaneity, and also stuff that you can't predict. You can't predict the life. Performance is like life, because this is why long duration is so important, because it's unpredictable. Every performance I do leads me to the next performance, and somehow idea comes like like a flow. In the early time, it was really important to me to deal with my own limits of physical body. So I wanted to know where is the physical limits. Then later on, I had this experience. I moved to mental limits. Where is the mental limits? We think that we are using something like 30% brain, but scientists say we're using 20, almost nothing. Our mind is a universe that you never can actually get to the bottom. So much stuff to discover. So I get this kind of ideas. Physical body, okay, now we go to mental body. Now we put physical and mental together, what we get with that. But one of the main kind of focus to me, to the performance, is literally to lift human spirit and give the hope. In Second World War, everyone was painting atrocity of the war. But Matisse was painting only flowers. I never understood this till much later in my life when I came wisdom now of old age. And why? Because, we need to lift human spirit. We know how things are, but we need the hope. Hope is so important. We are living such a difficult moment of human, history. Hope is really something that we have to have. And I really love that performers live the spirit and not put it down. It's interesting that if you come to the exhibition, the thing that you're confronted the first is me, a straight jacket, and it's written the spirit in any condition does not burn. And it's a very important message actually, because the whole thing is really about human spirit. Especially in the difficult time we are living now, it's very important that we still think, yes. And then, I had to deal with so many obstacles in my life and understand that courage is one of the most important things, because you have to actually have courage to go to unknown. You have to courage to break the rules. You have to courage to actually confront yourself with your own fear, your own mortality and own suffering. And that's what, one of the important messages in my work. If I can do this with myself, then I am like a mirror. I'm your mirror. You can do it. I give you inspiration. I'm your tool, that you can do also the same thing in your own life. People ask me, where your inspiration come from? And they also ask which artists inspire you. And my answer is always the same. I'm not inspired by artists. I love our work, lots of artists, but I'm not inspired by them. And because artists are always inspired by something. If I'm inspired by artists, I'm inspired by second-hand experience. I don't want to. Idea come only from life. I do life, then I get idea. I think one of the most important work with Ulay and me, it was called Breathing In, Breathing Out. And this was really interesting because it's the most simple. It's all about air. You breathe air in, you're alive. You breathe out, you're dead. So we put, filter tips in our nose to close the nose, small little microphone in throat. We press mouth to mouth and we breathe one air till actually was nothing left. We actually breathe each other air from the body to stay alive. This was such a simple, incredible, strong idea about everything, existence, life, death, and two human bodies. Then I really have interesting work with Ulay called relation work, and this relation work was transporting just as stones from one side of the room to another side without any result. Putting them on bucket there, then take the bucket, going back, forwards, with no result. And for hours and hours and hours. Then we open the situation to the public. But before that, when we realize that actually when you do that, if you're alone, you have two buckets. when you're together, you have to give one bucket away because you're sharing one bucket. So that was a really ideal relational work. Then we open this to the public. So it's interesting, we give them to do this also as long as we've done, 6 hours. So the first people who actually that give up, it was the single one holding 2 buckets. The second one who gave up, it was relational work, and only one who was forever and exists till hours and hours, it was a chain transported stone, the large group of people. So it's interesting question if we give up something in relation. You know, when we start doing this relation work, I was really more male. I need to really have this incredible courage, pushing limits and do everything by myself. And when I met Ulay, he was half man, half woman. It was incredible. He had long hair, lipstick on the side, shave, and beard. And it was like half-half. And then we feeling by getting together and have this crazy love story that actually each of us give part and we call our work that self. It's not him and it's not me, it's that self. It's the kind of third dimension. But this third dimension was pretty strong. We never actually revealed to anybody, who was doing which idea come from. It was always united and it was presented that way. And then was this very kind of pretty important body work, that we done in performance till everything fall apart. When the relation finished on the Great Wall of China, I was without man and love and I was without work. I was deeply depressed and I have to find out how we can get out of it. And then I was thinking, okay, I want to go straight to the source. Straight to the source for me is nature and the old indigenous people, something where really old knowledge come from, which I like to discover. I like nature, I like volcanoes, the running waters, the high mountains, oceans. They are really full of energy where my inspiration come. Because in order to get inspiration, first thing you have to go is to get empty. Sounds very, very strange, but you have to get empty in order that the idea come into your body. If it's so full, there's no space. There's a Polish artist, Roman Opalka. He decided when he started painting in the beginning of his career that he would buy enough canvases, enough paint the rest of his life. And he will never, and when he finished, he will stop. Then he had a Polaroid camera, and every morning when he wake up, he will have the Polaroid of himself, and then take the brush, every canvas was gray, but he only used the white paint. He would put the brush in white paint, and he start making numbers. He was doing this for all his life. He get into trillions of numbers, and his paintings are incredible consumption of time, which is my question there all my life. How this process did not change you, and how we can continue this without saying, okay, I'm changed, and just give everything away and say, go to hell. In my point of view, this become like a same guy who giving the stems to the eggs, so banana kind of etiquettes. I really don't accept that thing that it didn't change. Then we have another completely different artist, Te Ching, who is Taiwanese, who make 5 years performances of his life. Each performance is 1 year. And for me, he's a real master. Just one example. He put a cage in his studio with 1 bucket and water and bed. And he sit there for 1 year, no reading, not listening to music, not talking to anybody. Only his friend bringing the food once a day and change the bucket from his pool. And that's it. 1 year. Then he done another 5 years, this type of performances. And I was like, wow. And how we could do it. I say, how we could sit on this bed. He say, if I'm on the one corner of the bed, this is my bedroom, in the middle of my living room, on the other corner is my garden. So he traveled in his mind. And then after 5 years, he stopped. And I said, why? He said, you know why? Because I'm doing life now. This is exactly example when this transformation happened. This is to me almost close to enlightenment. So, in my case, I know that certain performances really done this to me. Walking the Great Wall of China, 2,000 kilometers on the foot was one of them. Then, after this, the piece luminosity was important to me. Sitting on the wall, very high, in the bicycle seat, with legs not touching the ground, and just adding more and more light to the image, the actually just disappearing light. It looked like really can be altar, image of altar. Then the artist is present, of course. I stood up from this chair. I was not the same person anymore. But I also knew the transformation I made. I have to live this new transformation. New transformation for me was coming out of that performance, that I understood that the public is now my work, the public itself. And this is why I could do something like Glastonbury. I don't know if you know this piece. It was 250,000 people. And I asked them 7 minutes to say in total silence in the people in the music festival who never do even 3 minutes of anything. But I understood how I can deal with energy. And that's transformation that I actually am using it. Shame is such an important emotion. Shame. To be ashamed of failure, to be ashamed of your background, of your parents, to be ashamed of yourself, to shame whatever, And this is incredibly important emotion to expose. And I've been dealing with the shame pretty much in my work too. How to expose shame, how to actually stage shame. That I am shame, I get free of shame, and I get free public of their shame for themselves. If I talk really about Balkan Baroque work, it's very complex work. It really came to my response to the Balkan War in Yugoslavia. I was so ashamed about this war. I was personally involved. I felt like really this is something that I can't deal with this. It took me many, many years that I react. I only react after 3 or 4 years. All the artists was constantly reacting right away, but I could not. I have to find the kind of way how actually I can transmit what I feel. And the only way to do it is to create personal relationship. I went back to Belgrade. I interviewed my father, my mother, and I interviewed the man who catch the rats for the 36 years of his life and creating from one rat, wolf rat, who kill all other rats. This was the symbol how I can find a way to actually find the clue to the work. Then washing the bones. 5 days, 6, 7 hours, they rotten, terrible smell, worms coming all out, and then also turning from the teacher and the scientist about rats into the Balkan sexy singer. So what Balkan is, we are crazy people. We are full of absolute passion. We are hate is huge, cruelty, but also love and tenderness, all together in one nation. So it's no way how to explain how your neighbor can kill your neighbor from one day to another. So I need to deal with all this. So when I create, in my mind was so important one thing, that I have to make something deeply emotional, deeply personal, who can be translated to any war, anywhere, anytime. When I had a show in Royal Academy, that room, Balkan Baroque, it was completely invaded by the Ukrainian people, Syrian, Palestinian, Jewish. Everybody who was the war at the time in the world right now was related to this. So I'm very happy that I make something universal. You have to absolutely take in consideration age. Age you can't stop. My performance with Artist is Present, I made it 65. It was extremely demanding performance, but I could never do it earlier for simple reason, not because I didn't have more energy when I was 20, 30, 40. It's just because I didn't have the willpower and concentration discipline, which I learned later. So these certain performances, you need to have all these components in order to do it. But then, you get to your 70s, then now next year I'm 80. So what you do? I made the 7 Deaths of Maria Callas, and I built my entire performance about the idea that I want to perform till I'm 110, because I can do it. I lie in the bed, I stand up from the bed, I walk to the chair, I open the window, I exit. Excuse me, I can do this all the time. I have to deal every day with the new condition with all jazz bring, blood pressure, this and that. But then at the same time, it's incredible joy that I have now that I never had before. An enormous amount of happiness that I actually doing things that I love to do them and cut everything which is bullshit. I understand it looking backwards that so much of my work doesn't have humor. But now I need humor. I need to laugh about myself, about the world we live. Our country, Balkan, is absolutely based on black humor, politically not correct, because the only way to deal with the hell around you is to have good black humor to laugh. I remember His Holiness Dalai Lama told me, everything you have to do, you have to always try with a joke. Then you open your heart to the audience, and then you hit them with the truth.